everybody. So, I just watched Bridgerton season 3 and I enjoyed season 2. I enjoyed season 1 not so much, just because I thought Daphne and Simon were really boring. No other reason than that. And also, if you see me looking different places, this is my first time recording in a very long time on a laptop and just in a camera in general. And I do have this blog post already posted about Colin and Penelope's love story on my blog, storiesfromthenewworld.com. But where I am right now, the internet is kind of on the fritz, so I can't pull that up. So I will be using some old fashioned handwritten notes that I wrote. You guys can't see that. But anyway, so again, I enjoyed Bridgerton season 3. I thought it was great, mainly because I didn't expect to like it as much because it's Penelope and Colin, and I like Lady Whistledown. I like Penelope's storyline. I just thought Colin was boring. Again, same like Daphne. I think Daphne is boring. So that's why season 1 was like blah. And season 2, I didn't expect to like Anthony and Kate so much. I just really did. I thought it was very steamy, but not steamy in a way that's like creepy. And season 3, I heard, was promised to be steamy, but it was kind of like borderline, not raunchy, but it was just, I don't know. So there's a point in season 3 where, Cressida Cowper is absolutely desperate because she's going to be married off to an old man, and she takes the moniker of Lady Whistledown over from Penelope. And of course, Eloise and Colin are in Penelope's ear, like, just let her do it and don't do anything else. Which, again, I don't really like Eloise. In season 2, she really, really pissed me off. So I don't really care for her character right now because the whole feminist shtick only works for her because she's so protected as a Bridgerton. And I think that's what Cressida's parents were trying to tell her. Like, in other words, like when they told her don't hang out with that Bridgerton girl, I think it's because Eloise is allowed to live in her own little bubble because she's basically very, very wealthy, even though only Anthony is the Viscount. So he's the one who will inherit the title. But at the same time, the Bridgertons are supportive and they love each other and they have a lot of money. So that's why Eloise isn't being pressured to marry. And also, their mother believes in a love match. That's why nobody is really worried about Eloise just doing nothing and sitting around reading, whereas people like Penelope and Cressida, they have to make a marriage match. It doesn't matter if it's love because their family isn't going to support them, which we've seen. I believe that Cressida was correct and when she was pretending to be Lady Whistledown about the Bridgertons kind of mistaking lust for love, because it seems like that's what Colin and Penelope were doing. I mean, I've heard that the books are different. I've heard that the books are different and that it's like some sort of romantic story, and Colin and Penelope get together in life older than they do now. But the way it showed in this season, it's like Colin was nice in season 2, and in season 1 he was nice, and he said he had no interest in Penelope, so Penelope forgot about that, and things got worse at her, in her home life, and she just wanted to leave. And that's why she decided to pursue the marriage option or prospect with Lord Debling, who was an earl, I believe, same as Francesca's betrothed. John Sterling was an earl from Scotland, which historically looks very Scottish, might I add. But I, I mean, it didn't come off well, and apparently there were more love scenes between the two actors that they were promoting when they were on tour, but obviously that wasn't reflected in what we've seen. I mean, we got a whole lot of everybody else this season as well, which is different because usually it's just focused on whichever Bridgerton is getting married and they're betrothed and the drama with that and their fanciful love story, which kind of Francesca pointed out she doesn't really want, which is fine. I mean, Francesca's as boring as Daphne, so I don't really care much about their love story, which is just kind of them sitting around in silence. So it's not even really a love story. But uh, I mean, okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit from, I mean, again, I already published this. It's on my blog, but I can't really see what I wrote on my blog right now because, again, the internet's on the fritz. So, I mean, Cressida was right. Uh, I don't understand. I don't understand Chad Colin, and I'm going to call him Chad Colin because he was a rake. He was an absolute rake. He's having threesomes with people, and he's having premarital relations with Penelope in a carriage outside their home. They're making out on dark streets, and it doesn't seem like he cares about her reputation. And in fact, he actually kind of ruins her prospect with Lord Zebling because he made it clear that he has no interest in her. And they were doing those was a flirting lessons or something, and then Penelope had to expose herself as Lady Whistledown, uh, because she was going to get exposed. So she exposed herself, and she's had to go through a lot of humiliation this season, just being in proximity to Colin, who again is like the Chad everybody wants. He's such a great catch all of a sudden. Which I mean, I guess again he's nice. Their family's nice. A lot of the girls are coming from not so nice families, and he's rich. It doesn't matter if he's not going to inherit the title, but he does. Well, his child inherits the title because Penelope has the male heir that the Featheringtons need for the estate, which I'll get back into later. But it's just, obviously Colin doesn't want Penelope, and he's never really shown any interest in her. It's always been a one-sided thing. So even if Lord Debling, because he was asking about, why do you like sitting in the window so much at the, what is it, the library gathering they all went to, the library unveiling, which it was a nice library, by the way, but he was asking why, she likes sitting by the window so much. And she just said, oh, it's just a nice place to read. And he kind of left it at that. And then Cressida comes in and says, it's because Colin Bridgerton lives there and it's across the street from the Bridgerton house. And then suddenly I can understand Lord Devlin not wanting to leave months and years at a time and leave his wife home alone when, she apparently has somebody she's interested in, which I don't think he would have really thought much of it or he would have really cared. But then Colin did that whole thing where he interrupted their dance and he just made a scene of things, and that ruined the prospect for her. And that was the kind of last prospect that she had that would be great, that would have got, her and her family out of the hole that they're in. Because if I remember correctly, her two sisters didn't really have a marriage I mean, the men that they married aren't titled. So they're kind of just there and, they're just married, it's whatever. And they had the whole business with the solicitor from the crown, which it's interesting that Penelope's mother, Portia, so Lady Featherington, points out that Penelope is the child that's most like her. And Penelope is kind of mad at her mother for pulling the scam that she did last season with their cousin, who ran off with their fortune. And then Penelope essentially does the same thing by pulling a scam on everybody, and being Lady Whistledown and selling their secrets and their gossip for I mean, I guess she had a pretty large fortune by their time. She made like over £10,000 at that time, but less than 20,000. So she's been pulling a scam, pretending to be somebody else, and writing as a woman, publishing as a woman. And then she pulls a scam as well, trying to get her mother and their family out of, the issue of losing their title, which she overheard from the solicitor and her mother speaking. And she pulls a scam by revealing herself, basically exposing herself in front of Queen Charlotte. And then she tells her mother that she can tell the solicitor that the money is from her Whistledown money, which it wasn't. So again, that's another scam. And it worked out, but the only reason it worked out is because she's already with Colin and everybody likes the Bridgertons. So if that hadn't worked out, I mean, if she didn't have a Colin, she would have just ended up like Cressida, where Cressida still has no support system and she couldn't really be as clever as Penelope. And that's why Cressida is going off to basically the equivalent of Siberian Russia, which is Wales. I mean, again, no offense to Wales. I watch a lot of Welsh gardeners on YouTube, but I mean, Wales is considered like cow country, or Siberia, the equivalent of Russian Siberia. And Scotland's kind of considered like, especially the Highlands at that time, is considered like nothing. I don't know if this was before or after the Highland removals. But I mean, again, John Starling looks like a typical Highlander used to look back in those days, as does Queen Charlotte, as does Lady Danbury, but I'm not going to get too much into that right now. But the reason why that didn't work out for her is simply because, Cressida at least, is because she didn't have a support system. Penelope remained relatively unscathed because she handled things well. She was clever, and that's why she was able to enact her scam. And she had the support of the Bridgertons, who everybody likes and respects. And again, they're wealthy, so it doesn't matter. And in the show, apparently, not in the books, but in the show, they have the favor of the queen. So basically, Penelope was fine in whatever she was going to do. And then to top it all off, she has the heir to her family's title and estate. So, I mean, can't really say anything to Penelope. So I guess that's why she's allowed to be Lady Whistledown and then published under Penelope Bridgerton at the end. So, I mean, their love story is kind of secondary to just, I don't know. I didn't feel like a love story. It just felt like Colin got jealous that Penelope was moving on, even though he said that he wasn't interested in her. And then he basically sullies her honor. And then he basically says, because I did what I did, I'm duty bound to honor, to marry you because I can't ruin my own name as a Bridgerton, even though he kind of wanted to just not be bothered with her. And Lady Featherington thought something like that happened, and then Colin sticks up for Penelope. But I mean, that is basically what happened. He was just very acting very rakish and took advantage of Penelope, even though she was with it. But he ruined her reputation, he ruined her marriage prospects, and then he realized because he's a Bridgerton and everybody knows who he is, he has to marry her, and that's why Penelope ended up how she ended up. I mean, it's good, but at the same time, the two aren't even talking or happy when they're married. Eloise is blackmailing Penelope the night of her engagement party. Their wedding. There's a lot of drama. So, I mean, did Penelope really win in this season? It's not like a feel good thing like Daphne and I guess it was supposed to be Simon. I thought Simon was a loser the whole entire time, and I thought Daphne was boring. So, I mean, I guess they pulled together in the end, but then the actor left to do other things, so we don't really see a good conclusion to Daphne's story. And then we have Anthony and Kate, which again I like their story. I really, again, they're still my favorite season, so I like them. And then this season we got more of them, and they're just happy. Anthony leaves the estate to Benedict to handle as the spare while he goes off to India with Kate so she can have her baby, and they're just happy, which that's cool. They're in love. They overcame their struggles in typical Bridgerton fashion, so it was great. But then now we have Colin and Penelope kind of they were better before they started the season and before Colin came back with basically a conquest journal that Penelope complimented, which again, that's not in the books. Apparently, it's, rated PG in the books, but in the show, it's rated R. And she's like, "This is great, Colin. You should publish this." And it's like, okay. So now you're a sex columnist too. So I don't, it's just a lot of things that apparently were changed. And I read too that Penelope's hair was modeled after Jessica Rabbit, who is just a sex symbol. So I don't know what they were doing with this season. Again, it felt more like lust than love, and that is what Cressida said. So, she was right twice. I don't even know if I mentioned why she was right the first time. I don't think I can find it in my notes because sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. But I mean, so what did you guys think? I liked it. I liked Bridgerton season 3, but I liked it just because it was a wreck, and I was more interested in the side plots than Colin and Penelope. And their story was interesting, but I was more interested in everything else going on. And I don't even think if they just focused on Colin and Penelope, they would have had enough material for the season. I've learned too that it was different showrunners this year as opposed to the other seasons. I don't know if that makes a difference or not because it was, Anthony and Kate then we got Francesca and was it Lord Sterling, which he didn't say much. So it's like, what are they going to do? Just have them staring at each other the whole time on screen? So then we got Violet and Marcus, and then Lady Danbury, trying to tie up her issues with her brother Marcus. We got Queen Charlotte realizing that she'd be really bored if she had nothing to do with Lady Whistledown. So that was basically everything in the season on top of Colin and Penelope, as opposed to last season where it's just Anthony and Kate, and then it was Benedict being a rake, which we got this season again, Benedict being a rake, Eloise realizing she's an idiot. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Did you guys enjoy season 3? I've heard mixed things online. Apparently, a lot of people especially who've read the books, don't like season 3. Again, I enjoyed it just because it was chaos. But let me know your thoughts. Leave them in the comment section below. Check out the article, full article on my blog, storiesfromthenewworld.com, and I will see you guys again soon, okay? Bye-bye.